I'm preaching to the choir here, so forgive me. My name is Nancy Gunkelman. I am a returned Peace Corps volunteer. I served as a medical illustrator in Kenya in the early 1970s. Nairobi's medical training center did not have access to appropriate medical textbooks, and so they requested that the Peace Corps recruit a medical illustrator to help them with their training materials. So I came to Kenya just a few years after it became independent. And things were looking up, they were looking very bright, and I had a very interesting experience. The challenges were great. It was a time when we didn't have computers and everything had to be reproduced in a very, very elementary way, which is fine with me. I'm a very low-tech person. And so we had to be very creative with how we reproduce things. Now, I felt very valued. Many, many people would come to me and ask me to illustrate various things. My principal actually lent me out for a week to an organization that was doing a seminar on family planning and population issues. And when I came back after doing that, my principal said, "Well, you must be very tired. Why don't you take a few days off?" This would not happen here, I think, in the United States. But anyway, I also was asked to do an illustration of a fragment of a skull that famous anthropologist Louis Leakey had found at the time. They needed it illustrated by stipple, pen and ink, because that was one of the cheapest ways of reproducing it in books and pamphlets. So anyway, I managed to cover a lot of ground, do a lot of things. I did illustrations of the bird population of Somalia. And this was outside of my main job, but there were people doing research in tiger beetles and in elephant nutrition and all sorts of other things that they came and asked for help with. The best part about it actually was living in Kenya, because it was such a fabulously beautiful country, still full of wildlife, panoramic vistas, wonderful climate. In fact, you could have any climate you want because they have Mount Kenya, which goes up to 17,000 feet. And for those of you who are familiar with East Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, which is just beneath the border in Tanzania, had been in an area that was colonized by the Germans at one point, whereas Kenya was colonized by the British. And a long time ago, when the Kaiser complained to his cousin, Queen Victoria, that it wasn't fair, she had 2 mountains and he didn't have any, she instructed her royal geographers to redraw the boundary line so that Mount Kilimanjaro could be in Tanzania and belong to her cousin. Anyway, when I was living in Kenya, I met George. George and I married in Kenya, and we went on to work in other countries after we finished with Peace Corps, and we enjoyed it so much that we continued working with nonprofit organizations overseas. And with many Peace Corps volunteers, you all know what it's like to come back here and to enter that phase that they used to call readjustment. Well, George and I like to say that we are a member of the unreadjustables. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you how this exhibit got started. A year ago at Montclair State University, we were having a Peace Corps event there, and I met Adam Swart, who is also an artist. And when we were talking about exhibits and artwork and so forth, we concluded that many, many people in America were not aware that Peace Corps still existed. And they didn't even know what sort of work Peace Corps did. Peace Corps generally does not advertise. They don't have a budget to do that. So Adam and I thought maybe we would at least try to call attention to Peace Corps in the best way we artists know how, and that is to have an exhibit of our artwork, particularly as it relates to our experiences in country, and also the turmoil perhaps that we went through when we returned to the US. And that is the genesis of this exhibit called Lasting Impressions. I see so many of you out there, you all know what it's like to have that imprint of experience of living in another culture. For those of you who do not know, Peace Corps was created in 1961 by President Kennedy and Sergeant Shriver and a few other actors. And the really special thing was that the very first training program happened to be here at Rutgers. And they really, I think, were operating in the dark. But, you know, the basic idea, of course, was to send Americans abroad to tackle the most pressing needs of people in other countries. And what was so special about it is that it was to do it on the ground level, you know, to have it be grassroots. No one was sure that it was going to be safe or it's going to be effective and so forth. But the real key, in my opinion, was that they took the time to actually give excellent language training, because the key to understanding any culture is to understand the language. And Peace Corps does that perhaps better than any other organization I know. So, I just wanted to thank Rutgers for being there at the very beginning and for helping us now. And thank you, Kayo Denda, who's sitting right here, who is in charge of this library. Kayo has been phenomenal, worked with us and really made us feel welcome here. Thank you for that. Anyway, a few years ago, Rutgers brought back that very first training group that became known as Columbia One, because obviously they were the first group to go to Columbia. Concurrent, there was a training program for Ghana as well, but Ghana did not have to go through language training because English was the official language. So I think Ghana technically beat the Columbia One group into the field, and has always disputed who was the first group to go. But in those days, when they first started Peace Corps, they did not have women in it because they thought perhaps it was a little too risky or dangerous or rigorous for women. Subsequently they learned that women could hack it and were even more effective in certain areas. So things have changed over the years. So they brought back this group 4 years ago, and they had a very, very nice reunion. That first Peace Corps group actually bonded together really well, and they've kept touch of practically everyone in the group over these 50 years. It's pretty remarkable. So I would also like to thank Joanna Rogolska and Kim Pernice, who were very important in getting this whole thing started. And I would like to thank the Centers for Global Advancement and International Affairs for giving us a grant so that we could put on this event. I noticed many students have taken a look at the artwork, and I'm hoping that it inspired some of them. And I will hand this over to Kayo for a minute or two, and then we will proceed.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for your kind words. I am here on behalf of Melissa Just, who is the Associate University Librarian for Research and Instruction, who could not be here because she has gotten ill. I saw her lunchtime yesterday. She was ill already, and I think things have gotten much worse. So I'm her sub here, but I'd like to welcome all of you on behalf of the libraries, and in particular Douglass Library, this building here where I'm based. And just to let you all know that we're just delighted to have all this wonderful, wonderful artwork, and also the presence of New Jersey State Senator Linda Greenstein, and also New Jersey Assemblyman Dan Benson, who are here with us. And we couldn't really ask for more. And I also would like to let the artists know how your artwork has been really having a profound impact on our students. It has actually been a start of conversations, and I've heard from students all over. Students, as you know, we have students who come from first-generation immigrant families, and they actually, your artwork speaks to them in a very visceral manner, and they say that they almost cried. They would like to really talk to the artist about their work, and I'm hoping that they do actually inspire them to go visit these places around the world. So for me, in case you're wondering, I was born in Japan, and my family moved to Brazil when I was about 3 years old. So I have actually the reverse experience from you to coming here and not speaking the language. I spoke very little English when I came here, and then eventually getting used and get a job here at Rutgers. So thank you to all of you, to our guests and our artists, and to Nancy for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much.
And now I'd like to introduce Edith. Edith Ben Israel is on the board of the Return Peace Corps Volunteers of New Jersey.
Thank you, Nancy. I'd like to first thank both Nancy and Adam for this wonderful exhibit that they put together. I know it was a lot of work and challenging to hang, and we appreciate all the art exhibits that you have done for us. As a member of the Return Peace Corps Volunteers of New Jersey, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our mission, and there's a flyer on the table with the flowers and the black cloth if you want to find out some more. And of course, the recruiters are here if you're not a Peace Corps volunteer and you're interested in signing up. But our mission is to support the Peace Corps mission as well as that of the National Peace Corps Association. We support active and recently returned volunteers. We create and support a social network for returned volunteers, and we facilitate collaboration and volunteerism with organizations with similar goals. And if you're in New Jersey and not a member of our group, please make sure to see me and we'll add you to our list, and make sure you're aware of all of the events that we hold. Thank you very much, and thank you again, Nancy.
It is my great honor to invite up to the podium Senator Linda Greenstein, who I've known for a number of years, and I have always been aware, she has always been out and about in public, always very sensitive to the issues of her constituents. And she came to my attention a number of years ago when we had funding cuts in the arts. She's a staunch supporter of the arts. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And I'm here today, of course, not just to support the Peace Corps, but my good friends Nancy and George, and all our Monroe friends who are here. But I'm so glad that through Nancy, I've become, in a sense, reacquainted with the Peace Corps. My only acquaintance with it, other than knowing a few people who were with it, was that I was of the age when I was very impressed and taken with President Kennedy, and with the speeches he made about it, and with people who first went. And I got to see something that I felt very idealistic about, but didn't quite reach the level of idealism that the Gunkelmans did and actually go. I was going to joke, when you said you were married in Kenya, I was going to say I was married in Queens, but you know, that was the extent of it. But I certainly was idealistic and really always had a desire to do something like that and didn't quite make it. But it's wonderful to hear about what you've done and to see how the art connects so well. The Peace Corps was always about us going over there to help, but it was also about people coming back with all the things you have in you and applying it to our culture. And you're doing that through your art. By putting out these pieces of art, we can look and almost enter that world and begin to understand some of the things that you experienced. And we have become a very different world since those days. We've become a much smaller world. We have so many people from all different cultures here. And I was so happy to hear that, that the people here at Rutgers who are looking, who are from other countries, are very taken with the exhibit, are really, you know, so impressed with it that it's bringing them to tears. And that's because they're connecting. And I think that's important for all of us. Any place we can bring these exhibits and have people understand the Peace Corps, and I think you're right, many people don't anymore, and have them see what you experienced and see the beautiful art. I just think that's very important, especially in our very diverse culture. So I commend you, and I'm very glad to be here today. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Our next guest is Honorable Assemblyman Dan Benson. I would say loads of nice things about him. He's a wonderful guy, and if you haven't already talked to him, please do so.
Thank you so much, Nancy. You know, it's just wonderful to be here. This is actually probably the third or fourth Peace Corps event that I've come and spoke to or talked to different past return volunteers, and I'm always struck by how that core mission sticks with a person long after those 2 years of experience, whether they did one tour or if they re-upped, but continuing in those values that were instilled in them in that experience, how it changed their lives, you know, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years later for some. And I think it's really a testament that that enduring vision at the start by President Kennedy and Sergeant Shriver still is making a lasting impact in the world today. And I think, as the Senator said, we live in very different times now. We live in a world that seems perpetually at war for the past 10 years, or longer now. And the sense of needing that mission of peace and that mission of not only introducing those of us from the U.S. to other cultures, but bringing that experience back home. We're blessed here in New Jersey to live in a very multicultural society. My wife's originally from Turkey. She came here as a high school student. We met in college at Georgetown. I'm a proud Rutgers graduate school alum, so always happy to come back on the campus here. But us here in New Jersey, one of the most diverse states in our union, oftentimes take for granted that there are many other states in our union that are not like that at all, and may not even see another person from another country in their experience unless they go seeking that. And that's why that Peace Corps experience, and especially through art exhibits like this, really would be great to send not just here in New Jersey, but out across the United States, to really reinstill the importance of programs like this, and making sure that we rededicate, as elected officials and policymakers, to that core mission of national service, and a national service towards peace, because now more than ever we need it. I can't think of leaving a greater lasting impression, as the title of all these paintings are, than that going abroad and coming back. And you see this in all of the art, that there's emotion in all of that. Even the posed pictures, there's emotion that's going on either around the participants or in the paintings themselves, even the more abstract ones. You get this sense of fluidity because so much is happening. And it's not only the impression being made in that country. You see it's being made on the participants as well. And so now returned volunteers, you're making impressions here in New Jersey and hopefully in the rest of the country as well. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. Before we continue, I think one of the most important things would be to at least introduce some of the artists, and I would like you to stand and say your name and the country that you served in. Could you please return volunteers who have artwork in this? There seems to be some reluctance to stand here. Okay, you want to say where you're from, or you can shout it out. Start here.
Sure. My name is Teresa Neri de Velasquez. I served in Guatemala as a Royal Youth at-Risk volunteer from 2003 to 2005. And I actually stayed in Guatemala then until 2008. What else did you want me to share? I'm from Connecticut and I'm president of the Return Peace Corps Association in Connecticut.
I'm Ellen Papsiak, and I'm also originally from Connecticut, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Botswana for 3 years. I loved it so much, I extended my service for a 3rd year. I was an art teacher, the first year that art went into the school system in Botswana. It was amazing.
I'm Margaret Najjar, and I was in Tunisia in 1967-68. I was in the child care program, working with kindergarten teachers and nursery school teachers.
I'm Rosemary Venture, and I was in Colombia from 1965 to 67 with Acción Comunal, which is community organizing.
Back there.
I'm Chuck Meyer. I served in Saral, East Malaysia, as a syllabus advisor, which meant that I traveled a lot, and I see one of my compatriots over there, John. We were in East Malaysia together. I was a syllabus advisor. John was an elementary teacher in the ULU. I'm Bernie Borowski. I was in Papua New Guinea in 1999 to 2001 with my wife. We were in rural community development. We were involved with beekeeping and just a lot of things. And I'm the one who does the cat sculptures. I'm trying to do one cat for every language in Papua New Guinea. There's over 800 languages. And I've got 200 of them made, but I'm trying to get the rest done before I die. I'm David Miller. I served in Afghanistan in 1966 and 1968 with my wife Kathy, who was here. I joined the Peace Corps because I was living at International House in New York, and I met all these former volunteers who were coming back, and they had to have really interesting experiences, important experiences. So I considered it the adventure of a lifetime, and I was not wrong. Kath and I taught at Kabul University. We lived in Kabul for 2 years.
I'm Tricia McLaughlin. I was a volunteer in Costa Rica in 1987 to 89. I worked in the Women Development Program, which was a role that I focused on women groups. And I was a small group who I was with, but we just had our 25th year reunion.
Owen Fitzgerald. I was a volunteer in Mali, West Africa, and I was a water and sanitation volunteer at Field here.
Okay, did we miss anybody? Okay. All right, next I think just for general interest, I'd like to invite Rachel Boyd up here. Rachel is the recruiter for the Rutgers area and a broader one. Actually, she's going to have a substitute because her voice is not quite up to it. This is Zoe, who's coming up to the podium. And introduce where you are volunteer to.
Hello, I'm Zoe Armstrong. I'm a recruiter out of Vermont, up in Burlington, and I'm filling in for Rachel Boyd today. She has a sore throat. She's my compatriot here in New Jersey. As you probably know, Rutgers is a pretty exciting place. for Peace Corps. I just want to see a show of hands. How many RPCVs are in the room, including response? Very nice. That's a beautiful show of hands. Thank you. So over 220,000 people in America have served in Peace Corps, and over 600 of them have come from Rutgers. So that's a pretty amazing legacy of service. Basically, I just wanted to update you on some changes. You know, in a room full of RPCVs, it's kind of fun just to have the updates on how the application works now and what's changed in the agency. We're currently in over 60 countries, and it's still the same 27-month experience, and response is still alive and well. It used to be called Crisis Corps, is now Response Corps. And basically, our work and our mission has not changed, although there's a lot more cell phones and cameras now, and a lot more internet. Some people barely existed when they had that, when they had their service. So that has changed the texture of service a little bit, I think. But in general, the mission and the core, the heart of the mission stays the same. And as far as the application, as of July of last year, we changed the application. For some of you, it'll sound like a change back to what you knew, where you can choose your top 3 countries. So that's something new. You can rank them number 1, 2, and 3 on the application. And now we list all of our individual country positions very similarly to the way Peace Corps Response does, where each individual job is actually listed. So that wasn't the case before. You would simply apply and basically be assigned to a country. And so now you can actually look at the current listings online, and it'll say, you know, rural development volunteer in Botswana. This is when it starts, this is when you apply, and each individual posting actually has its own apply by date. And I just want to throw out a reminder that there is no upper age limit to serve in Peace Corps. If you want to serve again, Peace Corps is where once in a lifetime can happen twice, so come back. But definitely, don't be shy about that. We're happy to hear from you again. And also, I guess I wanted to let you know that another big change is that we take couples, but you no longer have to be married. We take any couple, you just sign an affidavit that you're a couple. That includes same-sex couples, so that's very good news. And let's see, so we have choice, we have same-sex couples, and all couples, you don't need to be married. I'm forgetting something big, aren't I, Rachel? Is there anything? No? Good? Okay. I just want to make sure. I don't want my boss to get mad at me. But essentially, I would say that it's a very exciting time in Peace Corps. We've seen a huge surge in the number of applications that we're receiving. Our goal for the new application process, which now is under an hour online, which, as you all remember, that was not the case before. You know, not that that was a big problem, I guess, but it's definitely nicer for it to be a little bit more accessible. You can get that initial application in much faster, which of course means more people apply because it's a more user-friendly process and it's all online. You can do it in your pajamas at your computer. So basically, with that process, there is a sorting mechanism that's built into the application that will basically, once you fill out your health history form, it'll tell you which countries you qualify for. That used to be internal DC information, and now we just work with applicants directly with that list. So that's an exciting change as well in the application process. I believe we're seeing about 900 applicants for every 200 jobs. So I've been really recommending for people to just go into the application process assuming you will have to reapply. Just come in kind of resilient and prepared that if you don't make the first round, you might make the second, so just keep coming back and reapply. But anyway, I just wanted to see if there were any immediate questions for us before I put the microphone down.
Volunteers in the field now?
There's around 6,500 currently. Yeah. And that number fluctuates between 6,000 and 8,000 depending on the year.
Since you mentioned age, what's the age of the oldest volunteer you ever served?
I believe she's 82 in the DR. Did I get that right? Yeah. Dominican Republic. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much. And if you would like more information or to have any questions or want to chat, please come talk to Rachel and I. Rachel served in Thailand for her 2-year experience, and in Response Corps, she served in Guyana. And I served in Armenia 2009 to 2011, also in community economic development. Thank you.
an interesting part of the program. I met this young man when he was in kindergarten with my son Aaron, and I was doing a slide presentation of Kenya. And lo and behold, he grew up and became a Peace Corps volunteer. And so did, my son also became a Peace Corps volunteer in West Africa. So please give a warm welcome to Owen Fitzgerald.
Aniche, akakene, asomongo beri, erepe, ba, alaka tile, alaka pinigo, alaka amjame, alaka kunaja, alaka kishikere gerema, ba. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Owen Fitzgerald, as Nancy said, and I just greeted you in Bambara. It's one of 60 local languages in Mali. Were you guys Mali volunteers? Sound awesome. Nyangadef. I'm super excited to be here. I'm really happy to be here, and thanking Nancy for inviting me to give a little slideshow here. And just one note, since the topic is lasting impressions, as we sit, I guess we're not sitting around the art right now, but I'm going to focus more on the subtitle, I don't know if you notice, of lasting impressions, is how artist perspectives were influenced by working in Peace Corps' health, education, development programs. I'm going to focus more on the influence. Can you guys hear me back there? Sorry, I'm going to keep it away from the microphone. More on the influence, kind of the experience and how it is that volunteers come back as changed people, and how that influenced the artwork that comes as a result. So, quick note, these are not my pajamas. This is a local traditional cloth in Mali worn by men every day. And so this was mine in Mali. It still fits, can you believe it? So anyway, okay, I have a little slideshow here for you. It's called, the title here, Lasting Impressions. Go ahead. Okay, all right, you heard about Peace Corps already. 1960, John F. Kennedy, Stryver, go ahead. 64, I said 64, they say over 60 countries. Anyway, go ahead. Okay, so Mali, just to kind of give you a quick idea where Mali is, and the fact that there's so many volunteers here is awesome because you guys are going to relate to so many of these things. Okay, so Mali is in West Africa here. You can go ahead next. And you'll notice from this satellite image, it's kind of hard to see, but the northern 2/3 of Mali is all Sahara Desert. So I was not with the Lion King, with all the lions and tigers and cool animals like that, although there was camels and hippos and things like that. And the star is where I was. So the southern is a bit more forested region, so that's where I was at. Go ahead. My home, just to kind of give you guys an idea. Go ahead. So while we just heard that a lot of volunteers do have internet access and things like that nowadays, I was a volunteer in 2009, 2011, and I didn't have any cell phone reception, any electricity, any running water. The nearest phone access was a couple-hour travel away, so I could call my mom and tell her I was still alive. So this is a mud hut, and I got some furniture made up from the next village. That's Crate and Barrel Transport right there. Can you see that? Go ahead. Go ahead. This is kind of my little yard area in the front, which goes back to my latrine in the corner. Go ahead. This is the latrine. Latrine, I'm sure everyone knows, most anyway, is where you go to the bathroom and you bathe. You have a bucket there. You use the bucket, and it's open air. My latrine was open air, so I'd look up at the stars every night as I bathe. It's one of my favorite things, actually, about my experience. And every night sleep in under a mosquito net so you don't get bit by critters. Go ahead, which I'll show a couple of. Yeah, so have a little water filter. There's my bucket for bathing and a little stove for making some tea. Go ahead. Oh, and this is termites. They make these things like coral reef coming off the walls. And so every morning I'd wake up and I'd brush them off my walls. And these guys, lots of, yeah, these guys are fun. A whole basket full of clean laundry, and I put it down, and I saw one fall off the wall into my basket of laundry. I said, man, how am I going to find it? Oh, yeah, these guys too. Big, massive tarantulas. Go ahead. He's cute, right? Look at those eyes. You see those eyes? Okay, go ahead. Food. Okay, so food. Millet for me is called toe. I ate it every day. Well, millet I ate every day, 3 times a day for 2 years. No meat, no vegetables. We only had meat and vegetables on big holidays. Mali is a Muslim country, so Ramadan, things like that. So in the beginning, it's kind of tough because you're going from an American nutritious diet, and then you go to just millet 3 times a day. Go ahead. This is actually the crop millet that we're harvesting. Go ahead. Up close. Can you guys see? All right, back there. You're okay. Okay. All kinds of different fruits, guavas, and things like that. Oh, so because we wouldn't be eating meat, and many of you know this, but the reason the village had lots of cows and sheep and goats and chickens and things like that. People say, well, why did you eat them? I say, well, if you kill a cow today and you eat for today, tomorrow, maybe 3 days before the meat spoils, so you eat for 3 days. If you sell the cow and use that money to buy grain, you can feed your family for the next 3 months. So that's why you don't eat meat that you have. But so we ate things like this. Whatever we would catch, I had a slingshot and I'd go out with the kids and we'd kill squirrels and birds and we'd roast them up. And back then I thought they were delicious. Go ahead. And rats, oh, big field rats. I mean, bodies were like this long, with the tails, like that long. And the first time they gave me a leg of rat. And you have the claw, and it's like this, right? And so I remember taking it, I just like covered it up with my pinky. It's like, just eat it, just eat it. But I needed the protein, I needed to get the meat in, so I just ate everything. Go ahead. Oh, as an owl, he was delicious. Go ahead. More food, go ahead. So, communal eating. So they're actually eating beans here, this is a celebration, but you'll notice everyone around one bowl. And I'm sure a lot of people ate like this, but you don't eat fast, you don't eat. That's just the way it goes. So I always ate slow, and they're like, dude, if you don't hurry up, like, no joke, you're not gonna make it. This is kind of a communal area, you can kind of see everyone out eating together. Oh, I was with a bunch of other volunteers, and one volunteer in the city, they wanted to make fajitas, and I actually had a chicken run around outside, and they wanted to make chicken fajitas. They were like, oh, what do you think about sacrificing your chicken? I said, okay. So we had chicken fajitas. Okay, projects. I was a water and sanitation volunteer, but as many of you know, that's just a hat you go in with, and then you change your hat, like, every day. The first thing we did was a latrine project, and it was kind of a presentation. It's called CLTS, Community-Led Total Sanitation, and it's incredibly effective. It's almost like, I hate to say it, it's almost like a shame tactic. But literally, where I was, there was, for 550 people, 4 latrines, 4 bathrooms. Everyone went to the fields. They go to the bathroom in the fields. And so we kind of used this presentation style, and it is a call to action to people. It's somewhat shaming them, but there's laughter and then there's shame built in. And as a result, I did it in 28 villages. 1,000 latrines were dug, and roughly you have 10 people per household. And so you have roughly 10,000 people that are now using latrines that were not using before. Go ahead. So in my village, I couldn't do it in all of them, but I taught them how to make latrine slabs. And so each family that had that dug a latrine, I said, we'll make a latrine slab together to upgrade their latrines. Go ahead. So this is everyone just making latrines. You can kind of just cycle through here. Go ahead. Good. So just, I'm sorry, can you see here? Okay. Just put some rocks down. Literally, a latrine is a hole. It's a hole in the ground. And that's it. People say, oh, why are you doing that? It's like, no, we dug holes. Like, not that special. Go ahead. Go ahead. A little concrete, throw the slab on top, use the crate barrel transport again, and you throw the slab down, and there you have. He's demonstrating how the position. Go ahead. And so the big thing, that's the mayor in the middle with the black jacket on. They went around every village that made latrines in every household. They got a big plaque at the entrance of the village saying that they were a clean, basically, village. Go ahead. It was a big deal. So there's the plaque in our village, and they were pumped. Deep well. Okay. So one of the big things in the village that I was serving in was there was not a single operating well. Every well they dug collapsed. And they were like, we need water. We need a source of water. So we dug a well. And the big thing that I kind of brought to the table, which I learned through Peace Corps, was a technology, it's a brick called the Dutch brick. Go ahead. And here you can kind of see they're starting the hole. And there's a big sacrifice at the beginning. You know, kill animals and say blessings and all kinds of things before the even beginning. Go ahead. And here we are going a little bit at a time here. Now think, this is 6 foot in diameter and 60 feet deep is what it ended up being to get good water. And you saw the bucket there. It's so I don't know if you can even see this. So, all right, so here's the bucket, 1 bucket at a time on this pulley to go 60 feet deep. I mean, it took a long time to do this. There's 2 little green dots there. That's the hard hats of the 2 guys that are down there digging in the hole. And so we would lower them down on the same pulley and rope and lower them down, and they would dig with a pickaxe for a little bit, fill the bucket, pull it all the way up, dump it out, 1, drop the bucket all the way down, drop it all. And so it took a long time. We made the bricks 1 by 1 with a mold. Go ahead. And it's a real. This is what I was telling you about, Dutch brick. Go ahead. And we had to 700 bricks or something that we had to make 1 by 1. And but again, there was no one was paid to do this work. The villagers all did the work themselves. I said, I will train you. Because when we had a first meeting, they're like, all right, so who's going to dig a well? They had heard about other organizations and people helping, and I just sat there. I was like, don't look at me. I'm not digging it. And so they're like, well, maybe we thought. I was like, who's digging the well? Before I knew it, I had 30 names on a list. Group A works Monday, Group B works Tuesday, Group C works Wednesday. And we rotated, and they dug the well. They made the bricks. So, go ahead. This is the Dutch, this is kind of how it works. You can see the edges of the brick are kind of angled out a little bit, so when they're placed in a circle, even if it was to collapse, they all kind of sink in and makes them strong. Go ahead. This guy's taking a nap. All right, go ahead. It's the very bottom. Go ahead. Working away. Making the top slab. Oh, temperature. Oh, 130 degrees. Really hot. Really hot. And so you'd have to start like really early in the morning, and man, it was so hot. That was my biggest fear with Peace Corps, was the heat. I was like, I don't know if I can handle that. And it's amazing what you can get used to, but you also learn to sit in the shade and eat mangoes. Go ahead. We put a whole bunch of branches up top so that the animals wouldn't get in before we put the top slab on. Go ahead. Here we are rolling it. Go ahead. You can see community effort. We all grab the slab, throw it down. Go ahead. And there it is. There's the well.
Men dig the well?
I'm sorry?
Were only the men well?
Yes, yes. But man, there was some women cooking some good grub, bringing it to the guys over here. Sorry, the question was, were only men digging the well? And to be honest, the women work way harder than the men in general in Mali, and they have so much to handle, and so it's, there's roles. The men do certain jobs, and the women do certain jobs, and that's kind of the way it is. But there it is. It's the whole well, all bricked all the way up, and so it's the first water, well that they have in the village now. Go ahead. Yes.
What did they do before for water?
Okay, so the question was, what did they do before for water? There's a pump in the village that an organization put in many, like 50 years ago. And the problem with the pump is that they use the pump for all of their water needs. So bathing, drinking, washing dishes, everything. Washing clothes, the pump breaks. It's a mechanical thing, it breaks all the time. So now the big thing is you use the pump for drinking water because that is the cleanest. And you use the well for all the other, all the other purposes.
So how does that water will rain into it? Is that the idea?
So basically the way it works, and so in hot season, so in terms of knowing when there's going to be enough water and how you know, in the hot season, and by the way in Mali it doesn't rain a drop for 8 months out of the year, and then you get some pretty hard rain. But it's in that 8 months that you want to dig that well, and you want to dig so deep the groundwater comes up. And so you want to make sure that there's a ton of water in that bottom of that well in the hot season. So when rainy season comes, all this rain comes, the groundwater level rises, and that thing is completely filled. And then it continues to recharge from then on out. But if you dig it in the rainy season, when the ground level's all the way up here, then the hot season comes, you got nothing in that water.
I have one other question
Sure.
on the food part. They don't eat vegetables, you said, they only have meat occasionally. How do they get the nutrients that you need? Because they look pretty healthy.
It is tough. So the question was, they're not eating meat and they're not eating vegetables, how do they get the nutrients that they need? So one is, there's lots of fruits and that are always in season. The big thing, and this is even the Peace Corps doctor told me, like, Owen, you gotta eat peanuts. They harvest peanuts to get your protein. You'll notice Malians, wherever you are, they're always reaching to their pocket and they're shelling peanuts, even as they're walking, chatting, whatever, and popping peanuts in. So that was a big deal, was to get my hands on some peanuts. And if I wasn't here, I would probably have peanuts in my pocket. Okay, go ahead. Thank you for the questions, by the way. Clinic work. Okay, so there was a clinic in a neighboring village, and they had a couple of big needs. There was a volunteer there for a couple of months, and then she left. And so they asked me, they're like, well, you're still here, can you help us? I said, okay, sure. So go ahead. Two things. Actually, go back to the last slide. You'll notice here at the clinic, everyone who's waiting is all kind of sitting in this area. And that's the whole clinic. There's no electricity, no running water. This corner room right here is where all the operating room, where all the surgeries are taking place. Right next to that is the maternity. And you have people being screaming and everything that's going on and in the maternity. And then you have all these people literally sitting. They're ill too, waiting, and it's not a good thing. So they said two things. One, a vaccination hanger and a place that people can just wait kind of away from the door of the operation room. The other thing is an incinerator, not for people, medical waste. They said, we've kind of looked at it, we rehandle our medical waste like 4 times before it actually gets to the incinerator in the city. And people are getting pricked by things, and I said, oh, it's such a small thing, no problem, let's work on it together. They sought the funding, I kind of got another guy to give me a hand, and go ahead. So we built this hangar that's kind of away, and we, concrete slab, everything, and then we built the incinerator. You can just flip through. And it was, quick, easy project. We got all the doctors on board, and now they literally walk the medical waste right outside to the incinerator, and it goes, up in smoke. Moringa tree. There's a tree, I'm sure you guys definitely know about this. Sorry, there's some Senegal volunteers up here, and they can relate to a lot of this. The moringa tree, and I know some people in the back have planted a moringa tree in New Jersey, but it didn't live, sorry. It's called the miracle tree, and it's amazing. As far as the question about nutrients, here's the tree, these are the pods that have the seeds in them, and then you'll see there's some flowers as well. Go to the next slide. This tree packs a punch. If you take the leaves and dry them, and make them into a powder, grind them up into a powder, and eat 2 tablespoons a day, it is the equivalent of eating 7 oranges, 4 carrots, drinking 4 glasses of milk, 3 bananas, and 2 cups of yogurt. Amazing, amazing. So when I found out, I'm a water and sanitation volunteer. I had never heard of this tree before. There were environment volunteers who were really hot on moringa trees, and I found out about it. I said, we need nutrition. I was like, and we need these trees. So I went, go ahead. And there's the flowers. Even the flowers you can put and make in tea. There's nutrients in them. You can eat the seeds. You can even eat the bark. You can eat the roots. You grind them all up. It's amazing. You eat the whole tree. Just eat the whole thing. Go ahead. So I got my hands on some seeds. I said, we're planting these trees. Go ahead. And so I had the kids count them out. I said, I want to know how many trees we're planting. So we planted 500 moringa trees in the village. Go ahead. And these are the women planting the trees. Go ahead. This is in my little courtyard area of my house. The kids always would come in and eat my leaves. You could eat the leaves fresh. You could eat them, dried and mashed up. It's amazing. Mat project. Good. So it's about a mile away from my town where the kids would go to school, and I heard about this mat projects that other volunteers were doing, and I was talking to kids and like, no, we don't. I was like, do you know where Africa is and where America is? They're like, and where Mali is in Africa? They're like, no, we don't know. They don't have books. There's no maps. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe we should bring a map. So I got this other volunteer out to help me. Go ahead. And we worked day and night. Under flashlight. And we had this one teacher who got really into it. And so we did this, this is Monsieur Sagara. He got really into map painting, and he was like, I want to do these, I like it, go ahead. And we had some other villagers help out too, it was really fun. Go ahead. And so we painted this world map on the side of the school. Go ahead. And so there's the map. And you'll see here, I even painted Mali, I outlined it in black, and I painted the colors of the Malian flag, because most people are illiterate. Mali is the most illiterate nation in the world. And in the village, I'll get to literacy later, but there's only 4 people in my village that were literate. And so it was amazing, the conversations that people were having, looking at this wall, like, whoa, that's where Asia, whoa, I didn't realize how big they were, whoa, America, what? You know, Mali's there? Oh. But it's amazing, and some people knew, like, no, that's China, like, how'd you know that? And somehow they became cool now. So anyway, this teacher he loved this so much, he's like, I want to do more. I want to do more maps, I want to do them in the classrooms, I want to do them everywhere. I was like, all right. And so I kind of helped him out. I was like, yeah, you did it the first one with this, I'll kind of show you, we'll get Africa started together, but it's all on you, bud. So we did Africa together, go ahead. There it is. And he's like, I want to do another one. I'm doing one in Mali. I said, okay, go ahead. But I was like, you're on your own for this one. So here we are, charting it all out. And he did another map of Mali, all by himself. To this day, he's being called by the mayors and people, the clinic, doctors, to all over these villages to go and paint maps of the communities of what we would call the counties, communes, and map, regional maps and country maps and in schools. It's amazing, and he's doing it all by himself. And he's like always thanking me. I was like, you're painting them, it's really cool. Yes.
Are they having your paint supplied, or are they making it?
No, it's supplied. So the first one, I went to the city, and I actually got money. I hit the mayor up for money for the first map. I was like, hey, bud, you're paying for this. He's like, okay. Sorry, I was a big proponent of not funding anything, of not bringing any money in. That was kind of one of the big things for me. So we would buy the paint and bring it in. And then as he would go and do these, the clinic or the schools, they would provide the money to buy the paint and to do it. Yes? I was located, on this map, I was in the Koulikoro region. So there's 8 regions in Mali. This northern part was all Sahara Desert, and I was all the way down, I don't know if you can see me, but down in this area right here. The name of the village was Sokurani. Sokurani. So is house, Kura is new, and Ni is small. So it's a small new house. And it used to be that there was just one small little house. There was not a village. And people always used it as a landmark. Oh, when you get to the small new house, when you get to Sokurani, make a right or make a left or whatever. Then more people live there, and now it's called Sokurani. So, okay. Women's Summit. So, in Mali, men are up here, and women are down here, in general. And even, there were some other volunteers, they were big on wanting to put together this educational summit for women to travel. A lot of the women where I was from never traveled. They never even went out of their village or the neighboring villages. They never saw anything. And so we put together this summit. They traveled across the country to go to this big education. It was a long weekend. They got to stay overnight, and it was like an adventure for them. And the men are like, what, we can't go? I was like, no, we're staying here. So anyway, I brought 6 women from my village, and other volunteers brought their women, and we're teaching about Moringa. I don't know if you can see, but there's leaves, equal sign, plus we're teaching about Moringa there. We did illiterate accounting. We taught about HIV and AIDS awareness. We did all kinds of stuff, and the women were just so excited. And when they came back, and to then talk to all the women about what they learned, it was so cool. That's just one of the presenters. And this is a picture of them at this dam in Segu, and they were just so pumped to be there, to show it off to the men when they got back. Neem cream. I hadn't even heard of this, but there's a cream, they have these trees called neem trees, and you can use the leaves and make this cream, and it's a mosquito repellent. Malaria is a huge deal. People were getting malaria all the time, dying from malaria. And so when I found out about this, it's like, all right, well, we have neem trees here, let's, and so I got a volunteer in to show me and to show everyone how to make this neem cream. And they started making it, and then you can bring it to the market once a week to sell it there, because it was so cheap. It's here, so it's another little thing that we did. It's really cool. Go ahead. Literacy. Okay. So, just stay on the slide for a second. Like I said, Mali is the most illiterate country in the world. 4 people in the village where I was could read and write. Once I learned Bambara, they wanted to learn how to read and write their language so bad. They're like, we just even want to be able to write our names. And so I was like, all right, I mean, I can help you. Like, I'm learning your language too, but I'm, past that part. And so I got this chalkboard made up in another village and had it come in on Crate and Battle Transport. Had the donkey bring it in. And when I say the women work hard during the day, it is amazing how, caring for the kids, and chopping firewood, cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, and sometimes the men are just like sitting around drinking tea, and you're like, oh. These women, after working all day, would come to my house at night. The next picture you'll see there's flashlights, but see how they all have babies on their backs. They're exhausted. I'm exhausted. I've been working on the well and stuff all day. Next slide. Now, there's a flash in this picture, but notice they're all holding flashlights. So just imagine, it's pitch black, and we have this chalkboard, and we're all up, babies on the backs, and flashlights so that we can learn how to read and write. And so we started this literacy program. It started with just a few women. Go ahead. And I don't know if you remember the book, The Giving Tree. Someone had translated the book, The Giving Tree, into Bambara, the local language. And I was like, oh man, that's so awesome. So here I am reading the book, The Giving Tree, to these women who want to read and write so bad. Go ahead. So with that, I had more and more people coming to my house at night once their work was all done, they would, we want to learn. I was like, okay, it's so awesome, but this is not sustainable. And they're like, well, we'll build a literacy center out of mud bricks, and we'll do it all ourselves, and we can have like a one classroom school, and we'll do it. I was like, all right, but it's still not sustainable because I'm only here for 2 years. And so they're like, well, we'll build a school. I was like, all right. My Peace Corps director got wind of this energy coming from the villagers, and I found out about this organization that would actually fund. They're like, oh, we'll fund your school, and we'll make it out of concrete. Let's make this, do it right. So what do you know? But again, I was like, but the villagers doing all the work. What do you know? We got some funding, and we built a one classroom school. Go ahead. And again, they cast every single block out of a mold, one by one. Go ahead. Good. So tie the rebar. Literally, we did everything. Go ahead. And so, by the way, my background's in civil engineering and construction management. So this is kind of how I had known some of this stuff kind of going in. Go ahead. And so we built this building. Go ahead. It's the first concrete structure in the village, or public building. Go ahead. Oh, I'm making tea. Tea is a huge thing. Oh man, the tea. Tea is such a big deal there. The tea ceremonies take between 1 and 3 hours, depending on where you are. And it is a time you sit and you chat and you relax and you drink tea. And you only get one little shot glass. Go ahead. Keep going. The wood, the timbers, we literally went to the forest right next door, cut the timbers and brought them, to do the roof. Go ahead. Go ahead. Even, it just keeps going here. Inside. Go ahead. Even the desks, we cut went into the woods right next door, cut the wood, to make the desks. Go ahead, made a latrine out back. And here's the grand opening for the Literacy Center. Now the big deal for this was, I said even before we build this thing, we need to have these 4 literate people trained to be literacy teachers. So we had multiple trainings. We had teachers come from the Capitol, teacher trainers, to train them to be literacy teachers. I had them travel to other cities to get training. Even to this day, I still get phone calls. They are still continuing literacy classes when it's not the farming season, which is really amazing. Go ahead. So this is our big, it's a small building, but go ahead. There I am in another set of pajamas. So we have kind of the grand opening. The Peace Corps director for Mali came out, and the mayor came out, and they even use the building now for other public voting and things like that. They have other villages coming. So Sograni has kind of become, there's an importance to the village in a way it's really interesting. Go ahead. Odd jobs. I just have a couple random photos. Hand washing. So I know many of you are familiar with this, but you saw the latrines. You probably didn't notice any toilet paper, because there is none. And you don't use toilet paper. You have a little teapot, it's like a water pot, and you squat down over the hole, and I know, you pour it down your backside, and guess what? Your left hand is what you use to clean yourself. So your left hand is your dirty hand. You would never use your left hand to give something to someone, to shake someone's hand, anything. Your left hand is off limits. But guess what? And I'd say, like, well, they're like, well, we don't need to wash our hands. We use our right hand to eat. We don't use our left hand. It's like, your hands never touch each other? Lie. So, and with the kids, I literally, I don't want to say I forced soap down their throats, but I pushed hand washing so hard. It's like, every time you eat, you have to wash your hands. I'd even have, the kids came to my house because they'd always want to play games, whatever. I was like, yeah, if you wash your hands first, show me how to wash your hands. And you literally have a kid take the soap, never washed his hands before, takes the bar, goes like this, on the top, and then puts water on the other side of their hands, like, done. I'm like, no, you're not. So we did a lot with hand washing. Go ahead. Pen Pals. I did Pen Pals with 125 students between Molly and actually Toms River in New Jersey. And it was so awesome to see the questions and the things that the Malian kids were saying, you know, asking the American kids, and the American kids were asking the Malian kids. Now, I'll say it was a little exhausting on my part because you have kids who are not able to read and write, and so I get these letters from America. They're in English. Sit down each kid one by one, read it. I'm reading in English, translating it to Bambara. Then they say, okay, here's what I want to say. They speak Bambara, and I'm sitting there writing in English. And we did 125 kids, but it was really cool. And we did pictures, and it was a fun thing. Every once in a while, I'd go to the neighboring city, and we do HIV/AIDS awareness radio shows. It's pretty cool too. Go ahead. My shade hut. This is a personal thing. I just think it's cool. I'm just gonna share it real quick. Hope you don't mind. I wanted to build a shade hut. I slept outside every single night, and when it wasn't the rainy season, because it's 130 degrees and you can't sleep in the house. It's too hot. So when the thatch was ready for cutting, I went out deep in the woods early in the morning, and I'd be cutting thatch. You can go to the next one. And I had help. Go ahead. And every morning, people were like, where is Zahn? And my name there was Zahn. Zahn. They're like, Zahn, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to cut thatch. I want to make a shade hut. They're like, no, he's not. He's not going anywhere. He's just playing in the woods. I don't know what he's doing. So every morning I was going, crack of dawn. And wait, go back for a second. So, back one more. So one day I roll into town on my donkey with all this, and they're like, what? Zahn actually was cutting, thatch out there. You crazy white boy, you crazy. Anyway, it's funny. They don't talk like that. Go ahead, sorry. This is making mud bricks for the shade hut. Go ahead. And so post holes, go ahead. And I designed this whole thing out. Normally they make shade huts, they just make the bricks and just put them in a circle and make the top and done. I literally, my background's in engineering, I had drawings, I had where I was gonna put windows, one wall was gonna be higher than the other, I had all these designs. They were looking at me like, what is he doing? And so I have all my materials stocked up ready here, and I had help from other young guys. Go ahead. And so you can kind of just cycle through here. Using the wood there to make the limbs, and then the walls coming up around. I said I wanted triangular windows, all these things. Go ahead. Weaving the thatch together. Go ahead. Just keep cycling here. Making the roof, just kind of the topper. Using the vines to tie everything together. And it doesn't cost anything but my time and the time of the young guys. But it's the kind of thing where all the young guys help each other out. If one of them is going to build a house, all of us will be there and help build the house. One of the other guys building a shade hut, all of us are there building a shade hut. So when it came time to me wanting to build a shade hut, guess what? I had help. And there it is. Isn't that cool? So I slept here every single night after this, and I strung a little hammock inside. And I literally had villagers coming from other villages like, you got to check out Zahn's shade hut. It's awesome. I was like, you want my plans? I drew them up. Hey, go ahead. The fire there, we had peanuts, and so we roasted peanuts. We just throw some hay and light it on fire with the peanuts, and we just all kind of hung out and ate roasted peanuts after. Go ahead. So here's the inside. It's kind of cool. Go ahead. You look up, you kind of see, what you see, all the vines, and the thatch is really neat. Go ahead. And so we're all hanging out. We're just about to make tea. The kids are making cards. Go ahead. Mr. Benson, thank you very much. I know you have another presentation to go to, but thank you so much for coming. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, thank you. Take care. Playing cards, we're all hanging out. Go ahead. Oh, so next morning, this is rainy season, just started. I slept in my house. I wake up the next morning and I find 4 kids sleeping in my hut. Like, well, you weren't sleeping here, we weren't sleeping here. All right, go ahead. And actually here, you can see we're under flashlight. We're playing the game Sorry. You guys remember the game Sorry, the board game Sorry? So I brought the game Sorry out to the village, and you would have thought I brought them a PlayStation 3. I mean, it was the coolest thing ever, and they begged me every night to play Sorry. It's like after literacy classes, I'm playing Sorry. I swear, I didn't sleep in Mali, but it was amazing. Go ahead. So there's the shade up. Go ahead. There's the hammock I strung up, which I never got to sleep in because the kids were always in it. Go ahead. A couple sorted photos, and then I'm wrapping up here. This is just myself and some other volunteers. We'd meet up in a city. Like I said, it was about a 2-hour transport away to get there. I went up northern part of Mali. Those are all elephants, West African elephants, which are the the largest elephant in the world is the West African elephant. And these women, I don't know if you can see, but these are all footprints of the elephants that they're kind of standing around where the water's pooled up, and it's brown water. They're collecting water to bring back to their families. But their water scarcity up in that area is rough. This is the market that I would go to once a week. It looks beautiful now. These are baobab trees, and they are so beautiful. This is my girlfriend. Her name's Donkey. And you have a good time. You laugh, you have fun with the kids. Go ahead. And I'd go places to have fun too. I'd go rock climbing and hiking. Go ahead. I mean, look at it's amazing. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Go ahead. And so I'm a drummer as well. And when you saw the first picture, I was actually hitting the drum. These women, they do these ceremonies and they all have these gourds and they shake and the gourds with beads and dance. And so men are not a part of that. That's what women do. And so of course I literally try, very tactfully would kind of try and break the ice and blur the lines a little bit between these things. So I would always join in and play the djembe and these things. And before you know it, you have men also joining in. Be like, well, if he's doing it, I'm in, because it looks like fun. Go ahead. And you make little gourd instruments, you carve them out, and you make holes. And I have some video clips for after if people are interested. Just quick little ones, but go ahead. Taxi, go ahead. Out in the fields, picking cotton, go ahead. Again, you're just always joking around, like having fun. And one thing the Malians do really well is laugh hard, really hard. So this is the cotton, actually, this older woman, she's the oldest woman in the village, she's spinning the cotton to make thread to then weave clothes. This is a woman, Setu, she's making millet, I was telling you about the millet patties that she eat. So, see, it wasn't just me that was sweating. Do you see the drips of sweat on her face? It's hot. Masks are a big part of kind of northern Malian culture. It's, the dances and the rituals that they do are really interesting. Talk about art. It's really neat. This is on Ramadan, actually. All the little girls are all dolled up. Super cute. Actually, this photo is in the exhibit. It's hanging in the exhibit. Go ahead. Okay, kids, the best part of my whole experience. I bet some would agree, some wouldn't. Say, man, they're the worst part because they're exhausting. But for me, it's just the light of everything, just so much fun. Go ahead. Okay, and this is one of my little triangular windows, and my shade up, this girl came up, and man, those eyes, I don't know if they get you, but they get me. They really get me. Okay, so there's a couple little things here. Quote from Robert Fulghum. Peace is not something you wish for, it's something you make, something you do, something you are, and something you give away. Okay. I have a couple of kind of things from Peace Corps. I hope you guys don't mind. These are older, but I just think they're cool. Top one, life is calling, how far will you go? This one down here says, our office can wait, some corners of the world can't. Up there it says, grad school or Peace Corps, why not do both? Go ahead. Top one here says, the difference between a career and a purpose is about 8,000 miles. Below here it says, we need someone with a good back, strong stomach, level head, and a big heart. Big heart, the asterisk should be, it's definitely, big heart's most important. And go back, please, just one. A strong stomach's important too. Yeah, I did. I had amoebic dysentery, giardia, schistosomiasis. I mean, the list goes on. But it's all worth it, I'll tell you. It's all worth it. The one here says, "Here's your wake-up call." It's a little coffee cup. Here's your wake-up call. It's kind of cool. So there's this quote that I found. It's really, I mean, it moved me. Go ahead. It says, you may have heard this before. It says, "If you have food in your fridge, clothes on your back, a roof over your head, and a place to sleep, you are richer than 75% of the world. If you have money in the bank, your wallet, and some spare change, you are among the top 8% of the world's wealthy. If you woke up this morning with more health than illness, you are more blessed than the million people who will not survive this week. If you have never experienced the danger of battle, the agony of imprisonment or torture, or the horrible pangs of starvation, you are luckier than 500 million people alive and suffering. If you can read this message, you are more fortunate than 3 billion people in the world who cannot read it at all." This, like, I read this when I'm getting goosebumps right now just reading it. But I read it when I got back from Mali, and it just hit me so hard. And a lot of people would always say, like, well, what can one person do? Or what can a few volunteers do really, really? And my favorite thing is to kind of reflect on a quote. Go ahead. "Never doubt," by Margaret Mead, "never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Thank you. I mean, are you guys bored with me? I can show you a couple video clips, like 5 minutes if you want. And interest? Yeah? Okay, all right, I'll show you a couple little video clips. I don't need this. And questions, if you have any questions. The cash crops, cotton was the main cash crop. You can just call, if anyone has questions, feel free to call them that.
How pure was the water? And, I mean, are they just used to the bacteria in the water and you had to get used to it, or?
Okay, the question was how pure is the water and are you used to the bacteria, or how is it? Now, I'm sorry, the water in the pump is a very deep pump, well, that water is still very pure. I would still add a little bit of bleach to it to purify it. The well water would depend on if they're keeping it out and how they're maintaining it. Some of the groundwater coming up can be great, but if it's that bacteria's gotten in there, then it kind of So here's one quick, when I said how hard the women work, just to give you an idea, these are women pounding the grain, milling. So you can see full on water and vessel, pounding the grain, and literally it's women every day, all day doing this. Am I in the right? Okay, digging the well. Remember I was saying about one bucket at a time? So you can see, all right, here, he dumps the bucket out. Then they bring the bucket back. Lower it down. You got two guys in the bottom there. They're with a pickaxe and a shovel, breaking up the dirt, putting it into the bucket, filling it up. How long it takes. Raise that bucket up. Yes. So in the beginning, the question was how are they able to keep so round? I was a skisser for one of the guys were digging in terms of keeping it very natural. The big thing though is once we got to the part where the walls would start to cave out or to cave in, it's when we introduced the Dutch brick and putting those bricks in. And the way the Dutch brick works is really interesting. Here, I can kind of come up here. So you can see how long it takes. It takes forever. But the way the Dutch brick works is once you have a circle in there, you keep stacking them up on top of each other, and then you continue to dig down inside of this circle of concrete blocks. As you're digging, the entire column is sliding down around you you have to dig carefully. The entire column slides down around you within the well, and you just continue, and then you add more bricks, so you're always protected from the walls caving in. Does that make sense? Here's some women, kind of gives you an idea of the women dancing in a circle, singing with the gourds. This one is on the ground is playing the little djembe, the hand drum, and the dancing. It's really cool. They're all big holidays, so you always have, these things on big holidays. Some of you guys are very familiar with this, having your cattle hold your plow to plow the fields. And I like to point out the kid, to hold the straight lines, the kid who is leading the cattle. It's a scary job. If those cattle go nuts or whatever, it's them that is literally right in front of their horns that are kind of leading. So anyway, just kind of give you a little snapshot of it. And I know George did agricultural farming. Yes, the one school is about a mile away that the kids would go to. That's right. This is those little gourds I was telling you about. You carve them out and you make holes in them, and we're just playing around. But this is how you have fun. There's no TVs, there's no phones, there's iPads and all these things, so you make it up. Yes.
Owen, for how many years have Peace Corps volunteers been coming, let's say, into this village?
Okay, so the question was, for how many years have Peace Corps volunteers been coming to this village? I was the first volunteer in this village, and there was no other volunteer even in the area. The nearest volunteer to me was about 30 miles away, which 30 miles doesn't seem like much, but that 30 miles takes about 2 hours to get there. So
how do you, in that case, how do they prepare them for a volunteer? How do you build their trust?
Okay, this is a really great question. The question is, how then do you prepare the volunteer, or how do the village prepare for the volunteer and building that trust? Now, this is something that, for my situation, Peace Corps did very well. It's not that Peace Corps just goes and finds villages and throws volunteers there. Oh, sorry, I'm in the light. And they just go and throw volunteers there. Villages have to earn a volunteer. Villages find out about Peace Corps. They hear about volunteers in other villages. They're like, we want one of those. And Peace Corps says, if you want to volunteer, you have to earn them. You have to fill out an application. We're going to have meetings with you. You're going to have to all come together as a community and build their house. And you're going to have to choose a family that's going to look after them. That's going to be the host family. You have to choose someone who's going to be your security, advisor to make sure that your health and security is always in check. You're going to have to choose someone that's a work partner. They work so hard, and they basically say if the village can't come together to do these things, to make a house, to make these decisions, then they're not going to be able to work together once the volunteer gets there. So when the volunteer gets there, it is a big deal. I mean, they've worked hard to get the volunteer there. And when I got there, it was that picture you saw of me playing the drum. That was my first day in the village. I just got there. They killed a goat. They were celebrating. And so imagine, I mean, they're also thinking, like, I don't know if this kid is going to hack it. Like, we did all this work. Like, do you think he's going to stay out here? And there's that element where, and some volunteers don't. They say, you know what, they get there and they say, I can't hack it, and they leave. But then, in my situation, in many other people's situations, they stay, and the relationships that are formed because of all of this, it's amazing. It is amazing. So, great question.
So you're,
Yes?
so you're still in contact with the village?
Oh, yeah. So the question was, am I still in contact with the village? I am. I get probably too many phone calls from them.
So they have to go somewhere else?
So, yeah. Okay, so the question was, they have to go somewhere else and make a phone call. It's amazing because for the entire time I was there was never any cell reception. The day I left, the day I was getting on transport to leave Mali, I knew they were building a tower in an area. And my work partner, the Malian guy from my village, he goes, Zan, he goes, we have cell reception. I was like, no friggin' way. I mean, it is such an emotional time. I'm saying goodbye to everyone, and in Malian culture, can you guys hear me? I don't like the microphone, but can you guys hear me in the back? In general, when you say goodbye to Malians, and I don't know if this is the same for Senegalese, like I said, the left hand is never used, ever. But if you're gonna say goodbye to someone that's gonna be going on like a long journey or something, you use your left hand. And the meaning behind it is that you have to someday come back and right that. And so I mean, when I'm saying goodbye to all these people after 2 years, with my left hand, I can hardly contain myself. You have women who have the head shawls, they're pulling them across their face because crying is not acceptable in public. And they're crying. I literally have tears running down my face. So I'm saying goodbye to everyone. I then get to the village where I'm gonna take the transport to leave. I throw all my bags on the transport. All the kids are there like to send me off. And my work partner comes up and goes, Zan, we have cell reception. I was like, no friggin' way. I was like, I have to. Just before I leave, I have to call home. It was the middle of the night. I called my house. My mom and dad, my dad picks up the phone. And he had come to visit at one point. And I was like, Dad, I was like, you're not going to believe this. I'm calling you. I'm leaving today, this moment. And this is the first time I'm ever able to call you from the village. And he goes, he goes, how's everything going? And you have all the kids in the background, like crying. It's very, difficult. And so I said, Dad, I'm putting you on speakerphone. Say Aniche, which is like, hello, everyone. So my dad says, Aniche, and all you hear is, Aniche. All the kids, crying in the background. And so now, because of that, they are able to call me. And it's like, I'm so glad it happened exactly the way it is, because I was glad to not have cell reception. But to now, the fact that I can be in touch with them, I finished service in 2011, and I've gone back twice to visit since then, and I'm planning to go back this summer. I still have some things. I'm still pushing them on things because to continue on projects that are not mine. It's all their own. But it's like one of those things. When I show up, they're like, Zan's here. We better get moving. And so I kind of go just to be that like impetus to have them keep kind of pushing forward. Yes.
I just wanted to say that you should just volunteer, that tell them that another volunteer came in but then had to leave, and then there's never been another.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I had a volunteer that was coming to replace me, and it was at that time that, I don't know if you've heard in the news what's going on in Mali, in northern Mali, and Al-Qaeda and all this kind of stuff, but Mali unfortunately had to pull out of Peace Corps. Peace Corps had to pull out of Mali, and so my village did not get a replacement volunteer after. He got there, and then they pulled out. So I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going back. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Yes?
What is your sense of their impressions of the United States and the Western world?
All right, the question was, what is their sense, right? Their
What's
impression.
your sense?
My sense of what they think
Yeah.
of America. Okay, and this is a big goal of Peace Corps actually, is to, teach the local villagers about American culture, and then also to come back, what I'm doing right now, is to bring the culture back home and to teach. Now, of course, I am America to them, because they've never met any other American. I mean, you guys all know this, because so many volunteers sitting there. And my guess is that they think Americans are crazy because of me. Now, I'm saying that, in a certain way. I mean, they see work ethic. They see how hard. I mean, I was literally studying Bambara, the old language, to the day I left. They're like, why are you still trying to learn? I was like, I want, the relationships that we form because of good language skills. As Nancy was saying, the language is like the most important thing. It is the key to those relationships, and the relationships was the key to the success that happened in all these projects. And even people like, oh, you did so much. It's like, I didn't do anything. All I did was push these people who already had energy and kind of channel energy and say, all right, well, let's do this. Let's do it. So, I'll show like one other clip here, and then I'll let you all go. I'll just show you this, just because it kind of gives an idea about it. This is my girlfriend I was talking about. And the kids ride the donkeys all the time. And I was like, can he handle my weight? And they're like, yeah, he can handle your weight, please. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna, try my hand with it. So he's like, you hit the butt for it to go forward, and you hit the left side of the head to make it go right, and you hit the right side of the head to make it go left. So, So I try my hand, and so then I kind of continue to ride through the village, and people are laughing at me. There's a reason they thought Americans are crazy, right? So you kind of get an idea of the village, though. It's not like a grid system. It's like this very kind of, you move right in from one person's house to the next, just because there are all these like huts, you know, they're not, some of them are square, some of them are not. But I'm making a right here. I'm coming up on my house. There's my house there. There's actually people sitting in my yard area there, and I look and smile at them because they're like, what the heck? They just saw me ride by and donkey. So, anyway. I had a little sheet. I used to sell photography, SLR, all that stuff. But I went, oh, a local Mali. I said, listen, all you have to do is pull it. I didn't always work out, but this occasion it did. Yeah, you did a great job. He followed me around pretty well. All right, last one here. All right. When I first got there, I could not communicate at all, not a single word. And I stayed with this host family, and so I said, well, let's just jam. So this kid breaks out this pan, and I bring out my harmonica, and we start playing, and the kids just start dancing. To watch them, their legs move, and how they dance, and how into it they get. This is what you do when you don't have Angry Birds. So the one question that I'll honor is the question they asked if I would just play a little bit. I brought it just in case Nancy wanted to play it. I have it right here. I'll give it a little, just kind of an idea of what that sounds like. I hope this library mind is loud for a second. Sure. The djembe is a traditional instrument in Mali, and it's solid wood. It's really heavy, but it's since I'm a drummer. I got really into music when I was there, and so I just started playing, and then I played more, and then I played more, and then I literally was having other villages calling me for their big ceremonies and celebrations. They wanted to pay me to play djembe in their villages. I was like, you guys are killing me. And so I would go and I'd play, like, no, I wouldn't take the money. They would insist. They would literally give it to other women in the village to say, when you get back to the village, give this to Zan, because we're not taking no for an answer. So literally, I mean, we're talking pennies, but just to give you an idea. End just like that. So, okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to put music on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to come up. I'm happy to, as you can see, I'm happy to talk or answer your questions. So, thank you again.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, but I just wanted to point out that the exhibit, in case you didn't know, is in various locations here. We have some things in the glass case here, we have artwork in the atrium, and then if you go down the hallway, you will find your way to the catwalk where we have our main display. And if you continue to the end of the catwalk, go down the stairs and come around on the lower level, you'll also see some other paintings. So please feel free to look at it all and enjoy. Thank you.
Oh, okay.